Hello and a warm welcome to you to yet another exciting episode of Business Africa. I'm your host, Afolake Oyiloye. The top stories this week. Afrexim Bank and African Continental Free Trade Area roll out Pan-African Payment and Settlement System to facilitate instant cross-border payment in local currencies. Famed for boosting immunity, the demand for mushroom in Kenya is more than double the supply. But can farmers master the complex and technical production to cash in on this mushroom boom? And it's been a dream since the 1970s with food security and energy sufficiency on the line. Niger is accelerating work on its first hydroelectric dam at Kandaji. With at least 40 countries out of 54 ratifying the African Free Trade Agreement, there's no doubt that African countries are eager to trade with each other. The Pan-African Payment and Settlement System is a timely intervention that promises to make the cross-border payments seamless, cheaper, and currency-friendly. Let's find out how in this report.
The African Export-Import Bank, also known as Afrexim Bank, and the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area are rolling out the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. At least $5 billion is lost every year in transaction costs as African countries trade with each other. The new payment system will enable African countries to make instant cross-border payments, even in local currency. It is also hoped that the system will solve the currency bottleneck where multiplicity of currency reduces the volume of intra-African trade. Afrexim Bank has already approved over $500 million to support clearing and settlement in countries within the West African Monetary Zone. An additional $3 billion will be made available to support the implementation of the system across the continent. According to indicators from the International Trade Center, in 2020, imports between African countries reached $58.6 billion, down for the second year in a row.
John Seba from PAPSS joins us from Cairo for more on that story. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Aflaki, for this, and I'm excited to be here on Africa News.
Now, how exactly will PAPSS save the continent of over $5 billion in cross-border payments?
In terms of cost of the payments transactions in Africa, it can be seen in a couple of aspects. One, in terms of the solicitation for USDs to be able to make a transaction. Two, in the delays that are there in terms of the recipient receiving the funds. And three, of course, in the actual cost of the fee on the transaction. So PAPSS comes into one to ensure that transactions do occur in local currencies, thereby eliminating or reducing the need to solicit for $1, which is a reduction in cost. And also because it's an instant payment, it reduces the time with which the recipient can get the funds. So all these coupled together, this is what reduces the whole cost of funds in terms of transactions, and also making sure that the $5 billion that's being lost can be greatly reduced.
Now, how important is a single currency to the success of PAPSS? Are there any plans or work being done to achieve a single currency for the continent?
Inevitably, a single currency or a single unit of account is important in any market to effect transactions. However, PAPSS for now is focused on making sure that the transactions in whatever currencies that are there on the African continent is seamless and efficient. In general, a payment system is the plumbing for economic activity. So the role of a payment system is to ensure that this plumbing is efficient and can carry on, can support economic activities very well. So for now, PAPSS is focused on ensuring that transactions that are going through this plumbing on the African continent are seamless and efficient.
Now, beyond PAPSS, what measures are being put in place to boost the volume of intra-African trade?
The African Continental Free Trade Agreement was signed by over 50 countries, about 54 for now, and has been ratified by over 40. So this shows a lot of importance that the countries have attached to this. There are a couple of protocols that are being negotiated under this arrangement. Trade in goods and services, rules of origin, investments, trade disputes, and all that. So each of them is a building block towards our overall objective of increasing intra-African trade. PAPSS has come in not as a silver bullet or not as an end in itself, but together all these working in tandem are going to be very important in terms of taking Africa to where we want it to be.
Are there plans for PAPSS to facilitate trade outside the continent, considering that over 80% of imports into African countries originate outside Africa?
That's an important question, and it's very important because Africa is not operating in isolation. Certainly, Africa is trading with other continents. However, I didn't also take this opportunity to mention that 80% of the intra-African transactions are actually settled outside Africa. So the focus for PAPSS today is to make sure that intra-African transactions, intra-African trade is supported through that payment mechanism.
Mr. Seba, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Folake.
Mushroom farming in Kenya is gaining momentum as more and more people seek the immunity-boosting ingredient of the delicacy. According to the National Farmers Information Service, the mushroom business in Kenya is valued at about $3 million, while government and various non-profit organizations are now touting commercial production of oyster mushrooms as the key to unlocking farmers' fortunes. The complexity of mushroom farming is a puzzle that must first be solved.
Mushroom farming is gradually gaining popularity in Kenya, with a number of health-conscious individuals turning to a mushroom diet due to its ability to boost the body's immune system. Based on the data provided by the National Farmers Information Service, 500 tons of mushrooms is annually produced in Kenya, against an annual demand of 1,200 tons. Despite mushroom farming being a lucrative agribusiness, most farmers are hesitant to pick it up due to lack of technical know-how and the complex procedure of carrying out this kind of farming.
The compost manure, which is called a substrate, it takes 30 days to 32 days. So the substrate contains hay. We'll compost and mix with some of the manure, the horse manure or chicken manure, or even ostrich manure, and the other components that we add.
The mushroom seeds are then mixed up with the substrate. Then the mixture is incubated for 2 weeks, after which the casing of the substrate using black forest soil is done. This is followed by another 2 weeks of incubation to allow for the formation of the pins. Since the mushroom is very sensitive to pathogens, farmers take extra precautions by setting up a structure that does not have any opening that can be a point of entrance for insects, and also placing a disinfected footpath at the entrance. Lucas Mongare, a consultant and farmer, adds that despite the complex process, mushroom farming is a very profitable agribusiness.
The returns are good. The profit is around 300% of the investment.
The mushrooms are either sold while fresh or after being sun-dried.
Construction of the Kandaji Dam has been postponed twice, and yet the food security and energy hopes of the nation lie in this project, located some 180 kilometers upstream from the capital, Niamey. The dam is expected to generate 130 megawatts and cultivate 145,000 hectares of land along the river.
This is the construction site for the first hydroelectric dam in Niger, located in Kandaji in the west of the country. This $1.2 billion project is expected to stem food crisis and power shortages in a country where only 15% of the population has electricity. As for the works, they're being carried out by a Chinese company, and water is expected to be available by 2025.
Our country is plagued by recurrent food insecurity, so we will have to find alternative solutions. The only alternative that should solve this problem is the Kandaji Dam, because 145,000 hectares of land will be put to use on the river, so it will improve production.
The project is financed by the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, and the French Development Agency.
Despite the investments in recent years at Kuru Banda and others, it has not allowed us to effectively curb the problem of access to energy. So with 130 megawatts, we will have enough for national electricity needs to develop our economy and also to sell electricity outside.
It is estimated that 400,000 tons of rice, corn and vegetables will be produced each year thanks to irrigation made possible by the dam, a boon in a nation where 80% of the population survives on rain-dependent agriculture.
And that's all we had for you this week on Business Africa. I've enjoyed sharing these beautiful and helpful stories with you. You can find more on the seamless cross-border payments, famine in Kenya, and Niger's energy ambitions on our various platforms at African News and africannews.com. Thanks for watching and bye for now.